Not so very long ago, if you wanted a car that was exceptional value for money, you went to Skoda or Kia or Hyundai. Well, things have changed. Nowadays, if you're looking for exceptional value for money, you might well buy an MG instead. And this new HS, well, it's a perfect demonstration of why that is. This new HS replaces an outgoing model that has served as MG's best-selling car and has consistently appeared in the list of the UK's top 10 best-selling new cars. So the new HS is slightly bigger than the model it replaces. It's a rival to cars like the Kia Sportage, and Nissan Qashqai, even the Volkswagen Tiguan. And as well as being bigger than the previous HS, it's a lot smarter, isn't it? I think this is a much more cohesive design. The previous model looked a little bit clumsy, to be honest, whereas this doesn't. This looks very smart, a little bit generic perhaps, but hey, it's a mid-size family SUV. 19-inch alloys as standard, they look really smart. All the panel gaps really consistent, paint finish is nice. These rear lights, this is almost a little bit reminiscent of a Peugeot around the back here. So all in all, a really cohesive piece of design, feels good quality, and yet it costs from just £25,000. Now, to put that into perspective, it's about £4,000 less than the price of an entry-level Sportage and about £5,000 less than you'd pay for an entry-level Qashqai. It should be noted that the entry-level HS comes with a manual gearbox, but can be upgraded to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic for an extra £1,500. Beyond that, you can upgrade from the entry-level SE model to a trophy. Now, this one's a trophy, but I would say that even the SE has got loads of equipment. So you get 12.3-inch infotainment screen, same as you get in the trophy. You get 12.3-inch digital dials. You get Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and SatNav as standard on the SE. You get 19-inch wheels, LED headlights, keyless entry. It's got loads of equipment. So actually, your £25,000 for the entry-level model, you're not really skimping. Boot space in the MG HS stands at 507 litres. So let's put that into context. It's not as big as the boot in a Sportage or a Tucson. It's a lot bigger than the boot in the BYD Seal U that we reviewed recently. And it's bigger than the old HS. Actually, 507 litres is good. There's a flat loading lip, no adjustable height boot floor. And also, just to point out here, so you can take this floor out. You then have your inflation kit if you get a flat tyre, and then you think, well, what's under here? Is there a spare wheel? Well, presumably there should be, but you actually hoik this out, which is not the work of the moment, but there is no spare wheel in this, but there is an awful lot more space. And look at the size of this piece of polystyrene. I don't know about you, but I would probably put all these little bits in a bag and have an adjustable height boot floor and about 30 to 40 litres more luggage space. Anyway, I'll slot that back in. You can also fold the rear seats. They go 60-40, like so. And then if you pop the floor back in, you can see you get a nice big through load bay there. Okay, one thing more to say about the boot is that the 507 litres you get both in this petrol model and if you go for the plug-in hybrid, which is actually really good. You get the same boot space in both cars. Right, back seats. So in the trophy, the cloth seats get upgraded to this. It's fake leather, but actually, certainly as it's brand new, it feels really quite nice. Space is excellent. So I'm 5'11", plenty of headroom. This driver's seat is in my driving position and got decent leg room. My knees here, my feet fit under the seat in front. I've got a bottle holder in the door bin here, couple of USB-C. USB-C? Oh no, USB-B? Yeah, they're just they're old USB things. Couple down there to charge phones. Ventilation. It's all right back here, you know. There's an armrest here with a couple of cup holders in. And if you do need to carry 3, flat floor in the middle and a long enough space to fit your feet. The backrest is slightly firm, but actually width-wise, it's not too bad at all. It's a proper 5-seat family SUV, basically. Right, jumping in the front seat, the first thing I've reminded myself is because this is a trophy, not an SE, you get powered seats. And when you saw my legroom before, look, actually I'm moving forward here, so there's a good, I don't know, 4 inches extra legroom. I'll do a cutaway dropping in what it looks like with this in my driving position. But as for the rest of the interior, this is such a big step up from the previous HS. It actually feels really quite nice in here. For £25,000, I mean, you just wouldn't know it. It's a really pleasant interior. Couple of gripes. One, although this does adjust for reach and height, I'd like it to come out a bit further personally. It doesn't quite come out enough for my liking. And the other one, these A-pillars are, one, particularly wide, and two, the angle they're at really obscure visibility. So that's not brilliant. But otherwise, in terms of storage, you've got a couple of cup holders here. There's a bin under here, you know, quite big door bins here. They're not lined with felt or anything, so a little bit scratchy. But yeah, like storage-wise, really big glove box. Happy about that. You get, again, a couple of the older-fashioned USBs. This is the one I mean, USB-B, whatever. And you need that if you want to run CarPlay and Android Auto. They're not wireless in this. As mentioned, the touchscreen in both SE and Trophy models is a 12.3-inch unit, and in both models it's paired with a 12.3-inch digital dial setup. It all looks really smart, and the inclusion of CarPlay and Android Auto is welcome, but it's still not quite as easy to use as we'd like. Now, I would say here that MG is not alone in being guilty of putting too many things in the touchscreen. Lots of brands do it, including lots of the legacy brands. So I had the new Peugeot E3008 on test recently, and that was exactly the same. Far too many things packed into the touchscreen, and lots of them actually more difficult to access than they are in the MG. An example is changing the temperature in the car. So you can't even doing 1 degree there, you still have to touch the screen, but actually this is dual zone climate in the Trophy rather than single zone, and you have to go into the heating menu to do it. Same if you want to do the heated seats, and they don't actually get as hot as you might like either. Again, heated seats are in the Trophy, not in the SE. Now, at some point, I think manufacturers just need to acknowledge that having all of the controls in the touchscreen just isn't as easy as having physical buttons for key functions like changing the temperature, like doing the heated seats. It just means you can keep your eyes on the road for longer and reach to where you know the controls are rather than looking around in the screen trying to do them. Right, rant over. In terms of other upgrades that you get in the Trophy and not the SE, so we said heated seats, we've said that they're this fake leather, we've said that they're powered as well. So those are all upgrades for the Trophy. You also have wireless phone charging, you have power folding door mirrors, you get the dual zone climate instead of single zone aircon, and you get an 8-speaker audio system rather than the 6-speaker setup in the SE. Under the bonnet of our test car is a new 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol engine. It has 169 horsepower, 202 pound-feet of torque. It will get from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 9.5 seconds, and on the WLTP combined fuel economy cycle, it returns 37 miles per gallon. I have there pretty much just described an average engine, and you know what? It feels pretty average to drive. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, and at low speeds, it actually picks up pretty well. Around town, this is fine. It combines well with this dual clutch automatic gearbox. Where it's not quite so impressive is at higher speeds, partly because it's just quite noisy and it's quite a coarse noise, but also this gearbox can get caught out a bit and you'll want the gear, but it's not quite there. So it's fine. If you drive gently, then you're probably not going to have any issues with this, but when you need to go a bit faster, yeah, it does feel a little bit lacking at times. That's one reason we'd think about opting for the plug-in hybrid version of the HS instead, or perhaps waiting until the standard hybrid model arrives in the not too distant future. Now, if anything, the plug-in hybrid version of the HS looks like even better value on paper. So prices for it start from £31,500. So it's basically £5,000 more than a petrol model with an automatic gearbox. And again, you can have either SE or Trophy specification. It uses this same 1.5 litre petrol engine, but combines it with a 24.7 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery and an electric motor. It's still front-wheel drive. It produces 307 horsepower. It can get from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 6.8 seconds, so pretty quick. Most impressive of all, though, is it has an EV only range of up to 75 miles, which is really impressive for this class of car, any class of car in fact. And it means that it produces just 12 grams per kilometre of CO2 emissions. So if you're a company car driver, it's a bit of a no-brainer. And actually for retail buyers as well, if you're looking to sort of take your first steps towards EV motoring, or you've had an EV and want the reassurance of having a petrol engine, I can really see that plug-in hybrid version of the HS making an awful lot of sense. At that price, the plug-in hybrid MG HS undercuts even the BYD Seal U plug-in hybrid, as well as offering a better electric-only range, if not quite as much standard equipment. As for the rest of the way the HS drives, it's pretty good actually. It's comfortable, the ride's good, it feels a lot tighter, a lot more cohesive than the previous HS. Yeah, ultimately probably not quite as good as a Qashqai or a Sportage, but it's not ever so far off that I think a lot of people would particularly notice. Noise insulation is pretty good, you get a bit of tyre noise, but wind noise is well suppressed. The steering it doesn't have any feedback, it's a little bit springy, but it's okay. Yeah, it's just a very competent family SUV, and it certainly doesn't feel an order of magnitude cheaper than its rivals in terms of how it drives, which I think is the really important thing here. I think you could drive this and it would just fit into your lifestyle really easily actually. There's not really much to complain about in terms of it just being a family SUV and being capable of getting you all around comfortably and you know, quietly. Depends how noisy your family are, but in terms of the car, it's quiet. It's not quite a slam dunk for the HS, however. Now, I will preface this slight rant by saying I don't have a problem with active driver safety systems in principle, and I've written plenty of stories where the benefits of them through studies are plain to see. However, the systems themselves are only as good as the way that they're tuned, and in this MG I think the tuning could be better because they go off a lot. Wow, that was right on cue. So you have the speed limit warning, we get that in every car nowadays. You have the lane assist, which pushes you into lane, and you have this driver attention monitor. The combination of these three things mean that the car can bong at you several times within half a mile, and you're never quite sure why. So you have to look down to see why it's bonging at you, and then the driver attention thing tells you off for looking down. So then you have to go into the screen to either adjust them or turn them off, which is absolutely great that you can do that, but it's very hard to do on the move because the icons, although they're a decent size, there's just so many of them, so you do have to look down and do it. And then, because you're looking down, the driver attention warning thing starts beeping at you again. So you're kind of getting told off for looking away, but you're having to look away because you're getting told off, and you just end up in this awful cycle. So I do think there is room for some fine-tuning of the safety systems, or even just to be able to save the settings that you want more easily. You do have shortcut buttons on the wheel here to allow you to access your favorite functions, but from what I can see, the safety systems isn't one of the areas that you can easily access. You can't, for example, set your preferred level of safety systems. So I just think that's probably a bit of work for the facelift. And as I say, MG is not alone in not having its systems brilliantly tuned, but some manufacturers do it well, or they do offer simple physical buttons to turn these systems on and off. Much better news is that the HS bundles its good value pricing strategy with a very competitive 7-year 80,000 mile warranty. Overall, and despite the sometimes annoying warning beeps and bongs, this HS is a pretty easy car to recommend because it's just, well, as we said at the start, extraordinarily good value. Not just because it's cheap, although let's face it, with prices starting from 25 grand, for this kind of car, that is cheap nowadays, but because it doesn't feel cheap. The interior feels good quality. It's got lots of sort of high-end equipment on it. It's roomy. It's pretty good to drive. Ultimately, is it as good as a Nissan Qashqai or a Kia Sportage? Perhaps not, but it's not £4,000 to £5,000 worth either. And the other thing about this HS is it really kind of represents why the car industry is so interesting at the moment. Whether it's the rapid development and rise of the Chinese brands in the UK and Europe, or whether it's the progress made with plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles, and the fact that, you know, coming onto the used market, EVs in particular, are such good value at the moment. Now, you can keep up with all of these trends and more, as well as search for your next car over at cargurus.co.uk. So why not give that a try, and we'll see you next time.